could have fun that way. So maybe next time.
Well, we're good here.
Oh, we're definitely good here. Yeah, this is appropriate audio. This is perfect.
Episode 124, and we're still figuring out how to record it.
120. Only 124 episodes. That's not the 10,000 hours. What was it? Damn it. Who is 10,000 hours?
Oh, Edison?
No,
Thomas Edison.
No,
10,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah, I mean, he might have been credited to something.
What's 10,000 hours?
It's the adage that I could see his face in my head. He's a bit like squirrely, a little wiry. He basically was like, he has a whole bunch of books, and is Moneyball his? I think Moneyball might be his too. Michael, no, you don't know who I'm talking about. This is really embarrassing. Oh my God, 10,000 hours. Here we go. 10,000 hours.
Google has no idea what you're talking.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
That's telling.
Well, it shouldn't be. First article is like 10,000 hours. Why hard work is essential for success. But there's the origin. Malcolm Gladwell. Jesus.
Oh.
Good God, that should not have been that difficult.
Squirrely looking? I mean, that's not my go-to description for him.
Oh, really? Well, how would you describe Malcolm Gladwell?
I don't know. I
statesman?
never.
Would you say he's like a statesman? He's a man of good stature and character. Is that what you would go with?
Squirrely? Probably not that. That's just not the first thing.
I'm gonna look up an image of Malcolm Gladwell because sometimes I get him confused with. No, I'm right. No, I would. Yep, squirrely is.
All right, you're standing by it. All right, that's fine.
I'm definitely standing by it. Squirrely is apropos. I think that's. I think you're gaslighting me. You're making me feel like I'm taking crazy pills. He is a squirrely man. There's no other way to go about describing Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sorry, but incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent, but squirrely nonetheless. So
okay.
Anyway, so I was just saying the 10,000 hours. It's like that's not 100 and something, some odd pods at like an hour a piece, is it? Is there?
That would be 124 hours.
There you go. See, thank you.
Yeah.
So I hope you did that calculation correctly. But
an hour per pod, and there's 124. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well, there you go. So so 124 hours. That's a far cry shy of the 10,000 hours required to be an expert, according to Malcolm Gladwell. So we've got a long road to go.
Wow, that's a couple of years. Okay,
that's about right.
All right.
All right. Little known fact, people talk about the Beatles as being like, fantastic, like right out of the gate. But I think they spent a lot of time, and now I'm second guessing myself. But I'm pretty sure they spent a lot of time playing. I think it was like strip joints in like Germany or Russia.
Yeah, I think they spent like 10,000 hours doing that.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. I think it was about 10,000 hours playing low key joints. Unfortunately for the Jackson 5, they actually had a similar route. It's a little different when you're a couple of young strapping guys out of Liverpool versus a bunch of children forced to play strip joints.
Maybe it's combined experience. Maybe it's like we get to add ours together.
I was actually going to go with there might be some.
At least we're at like 250 then.
Well, I was going to go that maybe we should start recording our pod in strip clubs because there might be something to that. It's
an amplifier.
That's what I'm trying to get at. You might enter all. I mean, you're competing with the highest form of entertainment, like the most attention drawing form of entertainment that you possibly could compete with. If you could draw eyes away from that type of entertainment, I think it's letting you know that you've got something special.
If you can perform with all of that ancillary distraction around you, it's almost like, and I think I'm pretty close to the mark here, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport. He's sitting at the table trying to drink his tea and pour his master tea, blindfolded while someone's trying to punch him in the face. And he's just able to sense it and catch it. He's able to stay disciplined and focused on the task at hand. I think it's something like that.
Okay, or that.
Yeah, I'm going to lean into that.
Okay, I'm going to give that to you. I'm going to give that one to you. I can't compete with a Bloodsport reference. I never could. No one can. That's why Bloodsport is one of the greatest films of our generation. And So yeah, you've got it. You've got it. You got the Bloodsport reference. I've got my 10,000 hours. I've got my strip clubs. You've got Bloodsport. Do you have something to talk about on this pod today?
Ooh, you gonna open it up? You gonna open up this episode?
Welcome to Retraction. It's episode 124, and Jamie's got something to say.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, drop a comment, and tell a friend that you enjoy reversing course through discourse with us. Ugh.
We're all over the place. This is it's a special night. It's a special night for a special pod. But
all right.
Yeah, what do you got?
So I don't know how long the topic will be. It's a little bit of a heavy topic, but kind of went down a rabbit hole on this.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to phrase it. I want to raise awareness about this. So, Antoine, have you ever wondered about what causes cancer?
Yeah, I always thought it was your body attacking itself through like a genetic anomaly kind of thing.
That's interesting. You're almost describing an autoimmune condition at that point.
Okay.
But I was actually going beyond what it's actually doing, but what's causing it. All the factors that you're exposed to in your daily life. Things that can help bring you to this point of forming tumors and
low quality of air, low quality of water, things of that nature.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole, as I said.
Yeah, go on.
Actually, plastic isn't one. That's kind of the deal. When they found microplastics, like in terms of ingesting microplastics, we covered that on another episode. Yeah, and that in itself doesn't cause cancer, although now that it's known to pass through the blood-brain barrier, more research on the way as to what type of inflammation and that may cause to your brain over time. But it's always been kind of a non-issue, at least so far, for the rest of your organs where they found plastic in it. As crazy as that sounds. So who knows if that'll change in the future. But I did start looking up all this stuff, and I'm going to tell you a little story about a species that likes to make stuff and poison itself. So just
a spoiler alert, it's us. It's been us all along.
Oh, man, did you just spoil the ending?
I'm wondering. I feel like it'll be. Here's the thing. I'm really intrigued that there's another species that's as self-destructive as we are. So this is going to be really entertaining. I hope it wasn't us all along. I hope that we didn't land on the beach and look up with the great apes chasing us, and only to realize that there is a cancerous Statue of Liberty to basically say welcome to Earth. That I'm gonna mix up my movie references here. So you've got Will Smith, Welcome to Earth in Independence Day, and then you've got Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes.
There you go.
Anyone who's keeping count of the mishmash here. All
right, folks.
Go on.
Hold on to your butts to add another movie reference in. All right. So just to level set so that we're all on the same page here, because I don't want to assume anyone knows a lot about cancer. But cancer is not a single disease. It is a group of more than 200 different diseases. Cancer is caused by changes to certain genes that alter the way our cells function. And some of these genetic changes occur naturally when DNA is replicating during the process of cell division, but others are the result of environmental exposure that damages DNA. Okay, so it's kind of like what the deal is with cancer. It's also worth noting that just because a chemical is a carcinogen doesn't mean that you're going to get cancer. Other factors influence whether exposure will lead to cancer, including the amount, the duration, and your genes. However, in 1977, researchers found that 80% of all cancers were caused by environmental factors. Okay, let that sit in. In the US alone, around 570,000 cancer deaths occur each year. Globally, outdoor air pollution causes 8 million deaths a year from lung cancer alone. Indoor air pollution causes another 4 million deaths globally. Right? These are just one type of cancer. Remember, I said that there were hundreds of different types of cancers. So think about all the pain, all the suffering regarding cancer, and that 80% are within our reach to influence. We have over 100,000 chemicals in our environment. 30,000 of them have been analyzed, so nowhere near all of them. And 275 of them are carcinogenic. So I want to raise in this pod episode a little bit of awareness of just how often we are being I should say, how often we are bombarding ourselves with carcinogens.
Okay.
Some are natural, and some we're doing to ourselves, some we can avoid, and some we can mitigate. But without awareness, no one is going to have your best interests in mind while they're making money off of our collective ignorance.
Okay.
All right? So let's raise some awareness. Also, to that point, right before I jump in, it's also worth emphasizing that minority communities more heavily suffer from cancer and cancer clusters due to racism in our institutions. We covered that in our last show, episode 123, so go check that out. So you can absorb carcinogens outside. The sun, right? Ultraviolet radiation, also known as UV rays. It's an obvious one that causes skin cancer. Ionizing radiation causes 1% of all cancers and accounts for several types. This comes from cosmic rays that enter Earth's atmosphere. Can't do anything about that. Viruses and bacteria can cause cancer. Also, as you pointed out, the air is filled with bad stuff. There's stuff like 1,3-butadiene. I don't even know if that's how you say it. It comes from car exhaust. You also have coal emissions from plants or even fire pits release a number of harmful chemicals like benzene, carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. There are going to be a few names in here that I struggle with, but I'm going to do my best. Arsenic is a naturally occurring substance. It can be found in the air, water, and soil. But you also have, you can also consume carcinogens. It's in your food. It can contaminate products like nuts, corn, and dairy, and have that come from cancer-causing fungi called aflatoxins. Having more than 2 alcoholic drinks a day raises your likelihood of developing cancer. Aristolochic acids, which I'm sure I'm butchering, are a group of acids found naturally in many types of plants like ginger, and therefore in unregulated herbal products, you can get exposed to this, like wellness supplements. Water can be filled with several carcinogens. That 1,3-butadiene, again, the one that's found in car exhaust, is also in polluted water near facilities that handle tires, resins, plastics, and other chemicals. There's actually a site that you can visit. I probably shared it with you before, Antoine, and it'll be in the description for this YouTube episode. That you can select your water provider by entering in your zip code, and it will tell you what chemicals exist in your water and also their health impacts, the concentrations, and how that compares to recommended thresholds. Because it's important to know this, especially with your water, because you use this to cook, to clean, to bathe, to drink. Tobacco smoke has over 7,000 chemicals in it. 69 of them are known to cause cancer, like arsenic, formaldehyde, benzene, beryllium, chromium, 1,3-butadiene. That one keeps coming up. So just don't smoke or be around people that smoke. Do your best because it's terrible for you. Now, it's no surprise that you can be exposed to carcinogens at your work. I think that's like age old, at least in this country. But note that after going through this extensive list of carcinogens that are out there in the world, occupational hazards was the top way to be exposed to cancer-causing chemicals. Like, hands down. Everything was broken out by, and how do you get exposed? And more often than not, it was different works across all disciplines. It's not even like, no one's really safe here. No one's really safe. So you have agricultural workers can inhale dust and mist contaminated with aflatoxins and sulfuric acid. Yeah. You have lubricating oils like mineral oils used in manufacturing, mining, construction. They all cause skin cancer. Specifically, exposure to mineral oils may occur among workers in various industries, including the manufacture of automobiles, airplanes, steel products, screws, pipes, and transformers. Anyone working with brass or aluminum, engine repair, copper mining, and even newspaper and commercial printing may be exposed to these mineral oils. When it comes to metals, chemicals, and minerals that cause cancer, the most common exposure point is the processing and handling of these, and that's in mining, various plants, and different factories. Workers who use handheld masonry saws to cut materials such as concrete and brick may be exposed to airborne crystalline silica. Yeah. When inhaled, these particles can penetrate deep into your lungs and cause lung cancer. Laboratory technicians, certain healthcare providers, and mortuary employees are exposed to high levels of formaldehyde. Even prolonged exposure to wood dust can cause cancers in your nose and sinuses. Now, I'm not going to go through more. This is an incomplete summary of occupational hazards regarding exposure to carcinogens. Okay. And I urge everyone to visit our episode description on YouTube and view our sources to learn more. But I just wanted to show you how many industries and different types of roles are impacted by exposure to carcinogens. Now, in your home, radon is a radioactive gas released from rocks and soil. Radon is in all air. Everyone is exposed to that, but in very low levels. The difference is in your homes, it can build up to dangerous levels and cause lung cancer, and now they're even thinking maybe leukemia. Soot. Yes, soot that you find in your fireplace is the product of incomplete burning of materials like wood and oil, some other things. That black stuff contains several carcinogens like arsenic and chromium. You can be exposed to it by inhaling it, ingesting it, or absorbing it through your skin.
Right.
And researchers at Stanford University found that propane and natural gas stoves emit and fill homes with benzene above well-established health benchmarks. In fact, with one burner or just setting your oven to 350 degrees, benzene levels in the home can reach higher than those found in secondhand tobacco smoke. The toxin then moves from your kitchen and migrates throughout your home. You're sleeping in it. You're sleeping with it in your bedroom. Gas stoves can leak benzene when they're turned off. And good ventilation helps reduce concentrations, but exhaust fans were found to be very ineffective in mitigating this. So this particular finding comes as gas stoves have become a centerpiece cultural war topic for conservatives as they seek to block regulation from the Department of Energy that want to simply propose energy efficiency standards on ranges. So it's almost like a loosely connected issue here, but they've decided to warp it and make it their own. Okay. So a little more about benzene, right? Benzene forms in flames in other high temperature environments like flares around oil fields, and now, as we know, gas stoves. And according to the CDC, the chemical benzene is linked to leukemia and other blood cell cancers. Additionally, side note on gas stoves, 12.7% of childhood asthma cases in the US can be attributed to gas stoves used in homes because of nitrogen dioxide emissions. So what can we do about all this? Well,
the so what?
The so what, right? The so what. In your food, discard anything that looks moldy, discolored, or shriveled. Just throw it away. The FDA tests foods for aflatoxins, and to date, the only illnesses caused by aflatoxins have been in developing countries. But if we continue deregulating the way that we do with the EPA, it's easy to imagine that that could very well change. That's an easy thing to change. Look to see if the products you buy have any carcinogens in them, like aristolic acids. Access to safe drinking water is a huge plus for obvious reasons, but we also need to make sure our crops are irrigated with clean water, which is an issue today. We don't all have clean drinking water. Our crops sure as heck aren't getting watered with clean water. For workers, we need much better protections and awareness of what these chemicals can do. Taking it a step further, it seems like certain genes are associated with higher risk for specific cancers. So you could identify someone's genome and say, maybe you shouldn't work with this chemical because you have a higher likelihood that it could cause you cancer. But then after like writing that down, it sounded very dystopian to me. And I just rather we protect everyone from it and not say like, you're less at risk. So get in there, Tiger.
Not really. I mean, we do. I mean, there is that test that, I mean, I guess there is controversy around it, but there's that breast cancer test that people have been doing. That lets you know how much of a risk you might be to, and then some people have chosen to. I mean, I'm trying to think of some famous people who have done it, but what is it? What is the word for it? The what is it? Mescoscopy?
Yeah. Well, they know if they're at risk of getting it, and then they have their breast removed, right?
Yeah, so I'm just saying there's nothing dystopian about that. I mean, it's a big conflict because
not that, but to get tested so that you could get a job working with toxic chemicals, knowing that you could still get sick.
Yeah,
but the person next to you has a gene that maybe would get them sick faster.
Yeah,
so you can be exposed for a longer period of time. So then the job is yours.
Well,
It
I
just
mean,
seems,
I don't see it as being any different than the breast cancer test. I think that the more knowledge you have, the better decision making
oh, I think that having the knowledge is fine. And the breast cancer and what you want to do with that, I think is a little different than being forced to work in the toxic environment and then just select strategically or tactically placing people based on the amount of toxicity they can absorb before they get sick and die.
Let's qualify this. I'm not saying that the corporations get to test you and decide who lives and who dies. I'm trying to say that you, as the individual, can have these tests, and then that might inform whether you decide to take on certain types of jobs. That's what I'm referring to.
I like the idea of you taking a test and you
Yes.
just know what you're prone
Yes,
to.
you
What I
just
don't
know.
think
Yes.
is right is the second part of what you said, and you can decide on whether or not you want to take the risk. My point is there shouldn't be a risk. The risk should be mitigated. People should be working in a safe environment. If
Yeah, I
you
mean,
can't touch
sure.
mineral oils as a lubricating oil in a manufacturing plant for pipes because it can cause you skin cancer and kill you,
Yeah.
then I don't know, maybe you shouldn't come into contact with the mineral oil.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that. I just think, I mean, first of all, you listed out basically that everything in our society is going to kill you. So it's like you need to qualify what is the difference between working in a factory or working in an agricultural field. For instance, like, is there a greater potency with regard to those chemicals you might be coming in contact with, which is the reason why there's a higher propensity of getting cancer while on the job or working in certain fields versus simply having a chimney that you light every Christmas, being the result of you getting some sort of cancer as a result of contamination with
Well,
these.
it's like I said
Right?
right out of the bat. I said that just because something is a carcinogen doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. Several
Right.
things come into play: the
Right.
duration, um, how the concentration of it, and your genes. That all plays a role. But
Right.
I think the way that we think about it and the kind of way that you just thought about it is I only light my fireplace. I know that that's most people would light it more than once a year, but
Of course.
I only light my fireplace, or I only do this. It's not just that. It's a matter of, are you aware of all of the things? Because I wonder if someone made a list of all of the things, how many things you would check off and how often you would be exposed and for how long would you be exposed on a daily basis every day of your life. And I
Yeah.
think that's the awareness that needs to happen, because it's very easy to say, yeah, I know that, if I inhale my fire pit smoke, it's not good for me, but I only do it, a couple weekends on the summer when I'm outside, right? No big deal. Or when
Yeah.
I go camping, no big deal. But there's so much more to your exposure than just that.
I guess what I'm trying to say is but the list is so exorbitant. The list is so exhaustive in terms of what you've just identified that there is no way. You're right. You could say, all right, I can start cutting out a couple of things because it's all going to compound. But any one of those could be the ultimate reason that you do get cancer. So it's more of like
Well, some are worse than others.
basically what you're saying is we need an overhaul to our entire society in order to rid the chances of someone getting cancer as a result of our malfeasance, essentially. Because that's the thing, gas stoves are ubiquitous. They're in like majority of modern homes.
First of all, I'm not saying anything. I'm just stating facts. And
Gotcha.
if you don't like the facts, I'm sorry.
Not a
It
matter
is
of
what it is.
Yeah,
These things are causing
but
cancer. You have exposure. We have ridiculous cancer rates. No one knows why.
Right.
Here's why.
Yeah,
And it is what it is.
Well, I guess, but I mean, it's like there's useful knowledge and then there's knowledge for the sake of knowledge. I hear what you're saying. It's sort of like everything can kill you, okay,
And then shouldn't we start to mitigate? Shouldn't we kind of prioritize? Well, what do we have control over? 80% of all cancer stems from environmental factors. Now, things like the ionized radiation, the cosmic rays, we can't really do much about that except maybe take care of our ozone layer. And I don't even know if that blocks this stuff or not.
right.
We have radon, which you can do radon mitigation, which is expensive. So not everyone can even do that.
Yeah.
But that could be something that we offer as a society to people as a standard. We could work on car exhaust. We could keep educating people not to smoke cigarettes. We could make work environments safer. I mean, even with the stoves, you could go electric, or you could even demand that manufacturers use new stove burners developed by gas utility companies that use less gas and they'll emit less nitrogen dioxide, something they haven't done yet because it's too expensive for them. But that tech exists. It was developed. It's ready.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely a good step forward. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You have to break it down. I'm just saying if you vomit, it's like everything that could possibly kill you. It's like people need to digest it. They need to say one or two things. It's like, give me the bullet points. Give me the three most aggravating factors for my everyday life.
But that's different for everyone. So that's why I want to raise awareness about what is out there. You know, I don't want to tell people do your own research, but check out some of our links in the description and see what impacts you the most.
All right, well, there you go.
Without government intervention to say like, well, yeah, we're not going to be able to like personalize cancer mitigation for every individual because there's so many different factors, but maybe they look on the aggregate and say this impacts the most people and we're going to start chipping away at this list.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just to give people a better idea of how you're bombarded with these chemicals. Right. I wouldn't, throw up your hands and say, oh, all is lost. It does take a long time for these things, at least some of them, to kill you. Some of the more industrial strength chemicals probably are a little more hazardous.
Yeah.
But many of these things they're tasteless, they're odorless, and every day of your lives and every aspect of your lives, you're being exposed to them. They're outside, they're in your home, they're in your food, they're in their water, they're at your job. I know it's, not to steal a quote, but it's an inconvenient truth. It just is what it is. And it's not a matter of any one of these. It's a matter of all of these compounding day after day until you're too saturated, your DNA is too damaged to recover. And none of us are really going to escape it. It's I guess the question is, yes, become more self-aware of what's around you. Try to do what you can because nothing's going to happen in the short term. But I guess demand government regulation, demand accountability. Other than that, like try and be sensitive to when people talk about this and try to understand who is actually going to push through regulation and who's trying to gaslight you, not to make a pun out of it, to convince you that it's not a big deal, that it's not really, or it's not solvable.
Right.
Because the fact of the matter is like, you're going to have to solve it eventually because we're only producing more. And if we're not cleaning up all of our legacy things, I mean, this stuff is just going to get worse. You're just going to continue to compile the amount of exposure we have. Look how long it took to get rid of like lead paint. I don't even know. I wanted to look up the story with that, like how that even came to be. Even that, what drove that? Who got hurt? What prominent person got hurt to drive that? Because
litigation usually enough litigation against the company.
Class action lawsuits.
Just class actions that shut down most of the manufacturers. That's really what got rid of it. It's not anything. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I could speak partly to the asbestos, because I did in my early career, I worked in asbestos litigation. So I know that, especially contracting mesothelioma, for instance, incredibly prevalent with people who were like pipe fitters, who worked in the Navy, who worked in World War II, who worked in various insulation points, like in terms of like pipe fitting, gas fitting, things of that nature. It's been a long time, so my memory's I'm a little rusty on the whole thing, but the point still stands. It was the immense amount of litigation that came against all those manufacturers that just made it so unprofitable to continue to basically work with those materials. That you saw a serious change. You were like, we can't keep killing people because these people are cutting so harshly into our bottom line, and so we have to make a different choice here. That's usually the way that
go. Yeah, that's like waiting till enough people get hurt in such a way that they can have a class action lawsuit, and that's how we protect ourselves. I think it's sad. Like, how long is that going to happen?
Yeah, I know. I wish we were more proactive. I wish that some government just steps in and says, hey, people are dying here. You got it. Which they do, to be fair. I mean, the government does do that on occasion. But I'm saying most of the time, it comes down to hitting corporations in something they understand. And what they understand is profit. You reduce profit, you will get them to change their ways. Unfortunately, that's the MO of
it sounds very much like corporations tell us when something is okay or when something reached a point where it needs
Oh
to be
yeah.
addressed,
Oh,
which
absolutely.
just seems really backwards.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, that's part of the story you're telling. You're telling a story of, like I said, the reason I wanted you to clarify is not because I wanted to give you a hard time. I just wanted to say that most people, you list out 63 things in their home that's killing them, and they're just gonna be like, look, I gotta get to work. I can't. I don't know what you want me to do here. I'm not going to go and pay $6,000 for a new stove right now. We have, it's like I have a gas hookup. This is it. This is what it is.
Well, one of the things is when members of the GOP are telling you that Biden's coming after your gas stove, which he isn't, it's about making it more efficient. That was the Department of Energy's thing there.
Yeah.
But when these studies come out saying that actually there's a carcinogenic chemical coming out of your stove, whether it's on or not, and here's what it can cause, and it, and especially if you're running it often, if you're a home cooker, you should think about that. You should be aware, and you should understand who is trying to pull one over on you.
But again, like I said, the reason the GOP is so effective is because they go after the one thing that most people care about, which is your wallet. They say that the government is coming after your stove. They're going to cost you thousands of dollars and force you to replace it. An easy way to remedy that is for the government instead to come out with an effective plan that's going to basically that says we are going to stop gas fracking. We're going to stop, porting gas to homes, and we're going to pay for you to replace. We're going to create an initiative that allows you a certain allowance to replace the current stove you have if you so choose to do so. Here's the literature. This is why it's dangerous. We're going to try to phase them out, and we're going to try to help you replace it. That's the message I would run with. If I wanted to be successful in terms of a plan, that's the plan I would go with. That's what I would hit home in terms of the marketing. That's not the marketing people get. What the marketing people get is the government's here to charge you some extra money and basically create a new tax and a new burden on you for something that might not be that much of a big deal. I mean, people, I don't really fault people that much in terms of the scenario. I mean, who wants to go out and replace something that is perfectly working, that works well, people love gas stoves. It's convenient.
And that's the thing, though. If
what do you want?
If that is one of the things that you have, and you are not in a position to change it, and the government is not going to help you, I mean, we all can just go on living with our lives, which is probably most likely going to happen. But there are other things to consider. And again, it's more around the occupational hazards, which is where you're getting the most exposure. And then other things like drinking too much alcohol and smoking too many cigarettes or anything like that, which you should check if you are. But the stove should not be the centerpiece of this argument. The stove, radon, there's all these things are just compounding.
Yeah, I'm just
things.
adding.
The big ones are your occupational hazards. Like I said, that's the one that shows up over and over with the most exposure. But
the thing is, that's not the majority of people. That's the other problem that you have with that argument is that the majority of people are not getting occupational exposure in that way. Basically, the way that you've outlined, where there's
a lot of people when you consider how many.
But it's not the majority
of jobs.
Yeah, but if you look at it, but look at the statistics. It's not the majority of people. The majority of people are not working that type of they're not doing. First of all, that's why we have a shortage of that type of skilled labor. Especially if you're pushing people into college educated people don't usually end up in jobs where they're having to engage with those types of carcinogens on a daily basis. That's not usually the route. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I would say, look, before you make that statement, because like I said, I did not go through them all, but I made a point to go into medical people, lab technicians, as well as the more blue collar work in factories, plants, brick masonry, carpentry. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of people.
I hear you're saying it's a lot of jobs, and it's a majority in certain areas, but let's not conflate it. I'm just saying it's not the majority. There's no way the majority of people in New York City are not bricklayers, and they're not lab technicians, right? That's not the majority of people. They're doing different types of jobs. Some people, I think if you were to probably put out the majority of people are retail workers. It's most likely what the highest job count in this country is. It's because we're a consumer-based economy. Majority of people are either doing retail working or they're in some offshoot arm of a retail type position or space. So I mean, it's just again, that was the whole argument with the whole Joe the plumber thing. It's like the majority of people are not doing that type of manual labor. It's integral work.
I mean, I'll have to yield the point because I actually don't know. I don't know what those roles are, but I also wouldn't really accept that as acceptable to say that just because it's a minority segment that they should be deprioritized in that way.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want anyone to think I'm saying that. What I'm trying to say is that if you're wondering, the question is, if you're wondering why it is not the biggest button issue in terms of every political cycle, why a president isn't running on this issue currently, and the answer is that both parties cater to elites, which are the people that donate the most money to them, and a lot of the people who work in those industries are not their biggest donors. If they are small town, right? Like, let's say, what's his name? Joe Manchin loves to cater to his coal miners of West Virginia. West Virginia happens to be, there happens to be a big, strong voting block of people who work in the coal industry. But even actually, if you look at the numbers, people have actually cited those numbers that West Virginia is not majority coal miners anymore. So it just so happens that they have an inordinate amount of power and play that he plays to them in terms of the money that they give him for re-election. But they're not actually the majority of people in West Virginia do not work in the coal industry. So you, like I'm saying, you even.
But I think you do have equalizers to them, because you will get cancer clusters that have to do with tainted water or whatever it is that may not be as bad as Flint, but water, it's not great. I mean, you like to tout New York City. The water's not great. The water is blowing through recommended thresholds for cancer-causing carcinogens.
Yeah,
and again, and then when you take into account all of the car exhaust or the automotive exhaust, there's just so much of it. So I would. I guess again, 80% of cancer is caused by environmental factors. That doesn't matter what your profession is.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's an important PSA. It's definitely something that we should be paying more attention to. I'm not here to conflate that fact, but I will again continue to highlight how when something is a minority issue, and I'm not talking about the race or the color of people's skin.
You're almost saying that because if 80% of cancers are caused by environmental problems, that the people who get cancer themselves are a minority. And the majority of Americans don't have cancer, right? That's kind of,
well, we don't know, because when people die of like natural causes, it's like a cancer that is so slow growing that it's like it kills you well into your like golden years, right?
Well, all right. So, I mean, yes, I don't know if someone dies of cancer, or dies, period, and they do autopsies and everyone are like, this person had cancer, or they would have died in 50 years. I don't know.
Right.
But I think the point that I was making is, even if you were to say everyone that dies of cancer out of everyone who dies in the US, that cancer is just the smaller subset of the larger population. It is not the majority. I assume 51% of the US population will not be dying of cancer.
Well, that's only, again, and that's because
it was 570,000 and we have 300 million.
Well, I'm just saying that it's because we have gun violence. We have
how many people die a year? US
I'm just saying that the thing is, you have people who are dying through other means who might otherwise
3.5 million deaths per year, right? So we have what did I say? How many people die? 570,000 in the US. So not the majority, but still significant portion. And 80% of that is from environmental factors. So that is a significant potential voting block, at least. It should matter to people, whether it's from your job or not.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, what I was really leading up to was I was going to talk about like the 9/11 victims fund that Jon Stewart had to like go all the way to the Capitol multiple times in order to get them get that fund renewed and to get it continually funded. You have people who were hailed as heroes during one of the darkest hours in modern American history that, despite having union, despite having some political capital, were just completely stonewalled by politicians in Washington.
Saddest thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Look how we treat troops. I'm just pointing it out. What does this country hold higher than our military?
I'm just putting.
But apparently, it's only active service members, because once you're done, we don't care as a country.
Well, again, some people are done because they've contracting because they have cancer.
Well, they work next to burn pits, which Stewart did a whole thing on.
That's why they're done.
Horrible.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
have cancer. That's why they're done. I just wanted to point out. I just wanted to say that that it's not as cut and dry as like is it that people don't care? It's like there's like a willful denial of wanting to change things.
Well, I think a lot of people.
Convenient.
I think a lot of people. I don't know how to phrase this, but I think that it's at least relatable to say that, oh man, that's terrible for that person. Yeah, I guess it could happen to me, but like you said, I'm super busy. I got a lot of stuff going on. I have no idea. I'm sure there are tons of things in my life that are exposing me to carcinogens, but what am I going to do? But actually knowing and being more sensitive to it and hearing it over and over, and then you hear people who actually want to do something about it. That's what they're campaigning on. And then you have people who are trying to convince you that it's not a big deal. If you know more, you can be like, hey, it is a big deal. Like, if this person is actually trying to do something, I want to support that. Yeah. I think that may be a conversation starter, to just be aware. No, maybe you can't be aware and do something. It's not transactional in that way, but be aware and be sensitive to the conversations that happen at government leadership levels.
That's fair. That's fair.
At least that's the point that I was trying to make.
I will also say that the deck is strongly stacked against you, listener. Mostly because every manufacturing company from, Clorox to, I'm struggling just to think of the guys who make the big baddies, but no one wants to go down like big cigarettes. So they're definitely, for every campaign that is out there trying to let you know about the dangers of these things, there is an equal and opposite. And by saying equal, I mean an overwhelmingly overt force that is definitely trying to quell that information so that they don't go bankrupt or end up in the same boat as Marlboro.
That's an interesting thing, because I would say that there's way more hope for most companies, because cigarettes are cigarettes. We need the other products. You just have to make the work environment safer. It's not really so much of a danger to the end user, because they're being administered in whatever ways, except when you get into like agriculture. Those are the farmers and the workers that are getting hurt. But I think it's just, but again, that goes back to the occupational hazard. You just have to protect the workers, whereas cigarettes is like by design, like you are inhaling stuff that's not good for you. There's no real way to sidestep that, unless you want to get your nicotine fix some other way.
Well, I mean, but I'm more speaking to your 80% environmental factors. I'm like, you start breaking that down, and it's because there's there's a corporation that doesn't want things to change very much. So,
they don't want to make things more costly. Yeah,
exactly. So that's all I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the majority.
You're not wrong. No, and again, I don't think that saying these things and raising awareness is going to change anything in the near future. But I do think that having more information is helpful. And it's one way that you can point out a liar.
Yeah.
Someone who's trying to take advantage of you for political gain, because that is definitely what is happening.
Yeah. I like that. All
right. You got anything?
I'm just worried. I mean, I like to light my chimney in the winter, so
I do too. I was looking for a house with a fireplace, and I do it. And listen, again, just because it's a carcinogen does not mean it's going to give you cancer. That's not how it works. It's about the amount of things, the concentration, and the duration. Right? If you had your face in your fireplace every day of the year for 20 years, I'd say you may have some issues, but it's that and everything else. And it's hard. It's hard to categorize. It's hard to catalog. I don't have a catalog, a running list of all the things that I'm exposed to. I'm with the audience. I'm with you. I'm learning as I go. A lot of this stuff was new information for me. And then I don't have a job, at least that I know of, that is exposing me to anything other than horrible drinking water. But I use my zero water. So hopefully that works.
I actually do wonder. I'm surprised because there's I know there's filtration systems within office parks, office buildings, but I do wonder about that recycled air. I do wonder sometimes if there is something.
The HEPA filters aren't catching everything.
I mean, you've got tons of monitors. I mean, I don't know what kind of carcinogen electronics give off, but everyone's working in front of a monitor. You've got like 100 plus monitors in any given floor. I'm lowballing that by because you've also got phones and copy machines. You've got all these machines essentially running 24/7, oftentimes overnight. So I'm just saying, I just wonder at that, at a certain level, if there is some sort of health risk some modern health risk that we think is quite benign, but actually could be contributing to, to cancers within the modern workforce. I don't know. I'm just, it's something I would like an answer to. I'm not.
I think that's a valid and important question to ask. I mean, a lot of these things are probably known because people were getting sick and they looked into it. And this is just probably some obvious places. Oh, you're exposed to chemicals. We know the chemicals can be bad for you. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. It's these chemicals you're being exposed to. But environmental stressors or other things that maybe we just haven't looked into because we're, I don't know, afraid to. We're afraid to know whether or not these things are good or bad for us because we're so dependent and they're so necessary. And to your point, the majority of the workforce might be exposed to them. Maybe that terrifies us. I don't know.
But I'm saying I can't see an appetite by any corporation that has people in an office looking into whether the office might actually be killing anybody. I mean, it's antithesis to worker productivity and to the value of real estate.
A lot of people are getting sick after they retire. Probably, right?
Well, that's when most people get sick is after you retire. Relative, you just don't. Everyone just that's the thing. The going rate is you're going to die of something, and most of the time people are like, well, eventually you'll die of some sort of cancer. Some cancer will get you. That's just the prevailing ideology,
and it's like that because we're poisoning ourselves.
Well, yeah.
It's really sick.
It's acceptable because it's in line with how our civilization tends to function. We're like,
because you are
people got to go to work.
You are a means of production, and you have served your purpose.
That's correct.
And now we're done with you.
Now we're done with you. Yeah,
and that's terrible.
Less mouth to feed. Security
our health should be at the forefront of every decision being made. If we need to produce something and it's going to cost lives, I don't know, maybe we make it more expensive. Maybe we find another way. Maybe it takes just a little longer to get to that development. I'd be so curious to know that if you were going to purchase something and you were told what the sacrifice was to get it, it would still be as tasteful for you, if you would still desire it as much. It depends on what the product is, but
0.00% of the population, and most people are well aware of the mistreatment of animals and the blood, sweat, and tears that go into every bite of cow, and people actively say, "I just don't care."
Yeah, but I'm talking about human lives, and I'm not saying that we should not value animal lives. And just the fact of the matter is, given that so many people do eat meat and are aware of what happens to animals, is that they put human lives first. They put them in a higher tier. And so I'm just curious if their lack of empathy towards animals carries over to humans.
Well, we've been well muddled over the gun debate, and we know how that has played out. So the answer I'm going to say is indubitably no. It doesn't carry over to human beings. No, people don't care that way.
I wonder, because people are conditioned about 2A, the Second Amendment, and that it is this right, because if they give it up, their government will steamroll them. That's funny. Antoine's holding up a book, which looks interesting, called The Cult.
Of the Constitution. Cult of the Constitution.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd be curious to know if corporations could spin like the NRA has, that it is some obligation for them to just suffer for production in that way.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, that's the crux behind the mythos of capitalism. That's how capitalism. That's why people love capitalism. That's exactly. It's the pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and life is a myriad of sufferings. And the people who suffer the most are the ones who are rewarded for their suffering. I mean, that's how you got people to work. That's the myth that we live under. The answer is yes.
They should come up with like an app, like a Fitbit, or whatever those things are, that instead of tracking your calories, it tracks your carcinogen exposure. and you just say like, I cooked in front of a stove for an hour today, or
that could be cool.
I did
actually,
this or that.
that's
and then your ticker of your 10,000 hours is dwindling down. You don't have much time left before your DNA is unrepairable.
What is it? What's that clock? The Doobs clock. Your doomsday clock. Every person gets their own little personal doomsday clock. That's an older episode, people, where you're basically waiting for it to strike midnight. But the thing is, it doesn't strike midnight. It's instead what we do is a ceremony. It's like once you've died, someone comes over. Usually a loved family member comes over and moves your clock to midnight, and then says like a little eulogy. What is it? It's like your weary soul is now at an end. So something very poetic, something that is beyond my abilities right now to come off the cuff. But
then the app just starts sending you thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, well, to everyone else. That's right. Once the clock is moved to midnight, the app immediately sends a tweet via Elon's obituary section of Twitter for thoughts and prayers for your ultimate demise. Yeah. Anyway, what a great uplifting episode! What a fantastic episode! Rolling into the July 4th, everyone. Happy July! We didn't even say anything like that. Do people say Happy 4th? Do people say that? Is that a thing?
Happy Independence Day, Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, I guess people say Happy 4th of July. Yeah.
Happy 4th of July. Yeah,
sounds weird for some reason because I feel like we just don't say it that often. But
yeah, that is a weird thing to say, I guess. I don't recall walking into like a backyard barbecue and just pronouncing that.
Well, everyone does it just to turn around and yell it like a Norm Cheers kind of reference. Like, no one just yells Happy 4th like in unison. Like no one does that.
Yeah, so. It's not like a Merry Christmas.
No,
or Happy
not
Thanksgiving.
At all. No, yeah, not at all. But anyway, that's what I'm wishing to the listeners. This episode should air before the 4th of July. So this is it. This is our Happy 4th. While you're out there standing close to the barbecue that is unleashing
your propane, yes, your propane or coal or natural gas or coal fire, know that let the grill master do his job and watch from a distance
and suffer and die for your sins. Right? Give the grill master as much a wide berth.
Get him a beer. Just get him a beer. Ease your conscience.
Yeah. They're sacrificing for your food. So you reward them with reward them with an alcoholic beverage that may hasten their ultimate demise.
Yeah, another carcinogen. Exactly. Do you see how it just adds up?
Yeah, just pile it on, just to be like, I want to put you out of your misery as quickly as possible, Dad, with the grill. Not only do you have to inhale the barbecue, but here's some alcohol to sweeten the deal, just to get you to the grave a little bit sooner. And then people also come back and wonder why men often do not live longer than women, why women outlive men. This we might be onto something. It could have to do with men held most of those jobs that like again the asbestos litigation I did. Majority of the workers, if not, I would say 98% of the clients I dealt with were men. They're usually you were dealing with their widows, so there is something to that. I wonder if it still holds true as we've evolved and as the workforce has become more a little bit more egalitarian. But yes, I do wonder if women will continually to outlive men in the way that they have in the past. But yeah, that could be something to that. The manning of the grill while drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette definitely is going to cut one's life a little bit short. So
there you go, guys. It's the American dream.
Isn't it? I love it. Good job. Jamie, where can they find us?
Folks, we got new content out every week. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
And with that, we're Retraction. Oh.